Hello everyone, this is Vahagraphy. I'm Vahagan, your rock and roll photographer. Why I shoot Nikon. Why I use Nikon for years now. Most of you know I choose Nikon cameras and lenses. I made a video on this topic a few months ago explaining why in technical terms. But today, I want to give it a little more of a personal touch. Why Nikon? Why not Canon, Sony, Fuji, or others? Yes, I've owned many cameras in the past. I've had Canons, I've had Fujis. I was even one of the first ones to own the Sony A7 original when it just launched. I was one of the first photographers to have that full frame mirrorless camera in my hand. And yes, I've owned some Sony lenses too. And also with Canon. I've had a love affair with Canon for many years. From the 1D, the 1DS Mark II, the 5D Mark II, 5D Mark III. I was one of the first ones to own a 5D Mark II. I remember getting the package from Autorama, opening it up. When that 5D Mark II launched, if you guys remember, the video was killer on that camera. It was a sort of a revolutionary cinema DSLR. I've owned them all. I've owned a lot of cameras in my time. Going back to the Sony days with the A7, I also bought the RX1, or was it the R1? The one with the fixed 35mm mirrorless lens. And mind you, I had Nikon during this whole time that I was, buying all these cameras. Never let go of my Nikons. I never sold my Nikons. There was a point in time where I sold some of my lenses to finance the Canons, but never fully switched. Some of the personal and professional reasons why I chose to stick with Nikon. Well, let's go back. Let's go back in time to when I was in grade school. I remember I was 13 years old. My dad gave me a Nikon F3. And I went to photo class at school. And I remember all the kids around me. Wow, what's that? I was the only one in a group of 25 students in photography class. And yes, guys, there was a photography class and it was actually pretty cool. Hands-on, we had the darkroom and everything. So I remember all the kids, looking at my F3 and saying, wow, what is that? Like that looks really cool, so space age. Because these kids, I grew up with photography all my life. My dad, instilled photography in me when I was a really young boy. So to me, it was normal. This is just a camera. My dad had such amazing cameras at home. This was just, it seemed like a toy at the time because he had all the medium format, amazing Hasselblads, Mamiyas, Pentax at home. So this seemed to me like just a regular camera. But I remember all the kids looking at my F3 and they were like, wow, this is amazing, So my love for Nikon started with the Nikon F3. To really understand my history and my love of photography, not to go off topic, but I started doing wedding videography in the beginning days. I was about 11 years old when I got into video and doing photography on the side, but it was like a father and son team when we did wedding photography. My dad was the photographer with his medium format film cameras, and I was the videographer with my camcorders. I remember I had the Panasonic AG450. If you guys remember that camera, I had my very first camcorder was the camera. I remember it was a Panasonic, but it had the recorder on the bottom. I think it was Betamax. Betamax detachable recorder you would carry around with a thick wire. And we did video and stuff like that. So I did video for a few years. I remember I had the Panasonic MX50 mixer with 4-channel video mixer I bought for like $3,000. And when I was 12 years old back in the day, this was all VHS back in the day. So I would edit in VHS. I would, I remember I would leave 4 minutes in the beginning of the VHS tape so we could put baby pictures and titles. I had the titler. This was awesome time. This was a great time. Anyway, so went from VHS to high 8. From high 8, I remember I had the Sony V5000 camcorder. It was a single chip CCD video camera. Great camera. I had like 3 of those. And I was one of the first ones to do video, multi-angle video in my market. One of the first ones, because I was one of the first ones to have this mixer. I begged my dad to buy this mixer. We need this mixer with all the effects. And getting back on topic here, Nikon. So from the F3 days, I remember just how rugged that camera is built and just how amazing that camera, the shutter sound of that camera. Sure, my dad also had Canon film cameras. The A1, I believe he had too. But I always loved that Nikon logo in the front. It just looked more aggressive. So my love of Nikon started at a young age from school. Then on, when I transitioned from wedding videography and sold all my video equipment, and I said, you know what, I want to do photography full time. I remember my first, continued shooting with the F3, and then right around 2000, well, let's go back, because in the 90s and early 2000s, I was shooting medium format. My dad had all these Mamiya and Hasselblad cameras. When I was doing wedding and portrait studio work, I would use the medium format cameras along with my F3 35mm film camera. So fast forward to mid 2000s. I said, you know what? It's time for me to transition from film and experiment with digital cameras. My very first digital SLR was the Nikon D2H. I remember walking into Sammy's Camera on Fairfax in Hollywood, buying my very first D2H camera, the gold box. You open it up and everything's wrapped in plastic, and it was a pretty exciting time for me. I bought a couple of D lenses. I bought a Tamron 18-200 lens. It wasn't a great lens, but it was my very first lens that I bought with the D2H camera. 18-200. D2H camera is a crop sensor camera. So from then on, I bought the D2X, D2XS, and then the D3 came out. And not only to me was this camera just an amazing achievement, an amazing camera to own, but to the camera world, the Nikon D3 changed everything. The very first full frame camera. We're going from an APS-C camera to a full frame 35mm sensor, 12 megapixels. I remember the day I bought my very first D3. I love that camera so much, I bought a second D3 a short time after. So I was sporting the two D3s and shot with those cameras for a while. I remember I've owned the D200, the D300, the D300S. I even bought some of the Fuji S3 Pros. They were D300 bodies or D200 bodies, but with the Fuji logo. I guess they collaborated and they made a DSLR with Fujifilm profiles in them. It was a cool camera. It really didn't stick with me that much. Zero low light performance. These cameras, didn't do good in high ISO, settings. From the D3, I transitioned over to my D4. The D4, this is when I'm like full on digital. Like from the D3 on, I was full on digital. I still had my film cameras, but from the D3 on, the D4, and I still have my D4. Some of you guys already know that. Some of you guys know this, that I still shoot with my Nikon D4 till this day. I have the D850. I've never owned the D6 or the D5. I have a D800, which I bought at launch as well. Never owned the D700, never owned the D600 line. Pretty much I've owned them all. From the lenses, from the almighty 85 1.4D to the 7200 2.8. Amazing, amazing zoom lens. To the legendary 14 to 24 2.8. That lens, when that lens came out with the D3, I bought that lens. To all the legendary AI lenses that I own, that you guys own. Do you remember the boxes when I used to go into the camera shop? And Nikon has changed over the years. We started with the matte gold boxes with the big AF. Remember those days with the big AF right on the box? All you see is an AF right on the box. It was matte gold. From then on, we got the Nikon D lenses. Those boxes, you could see all the front pictures of the front elements on the box, and there was a gold stripe, and it said, 85 1.4 or whatever the lens was. That box, I remember that box. It looked really cool. Again, the front element, pictures of all the front elements around the box, and then that gold stripe, and it said what the lens was, what lens you're buying. You would open the box with the foam and the styrofoam, you would take it out, and it's wrapped up, smelling nice. And then from then on, from that box, they transitioned over to the shiny gold boxes when the G lenses launched. I remember those boxes. Now they have the black and the yellow combination. But it was just magic, and it still is, to unbox a brand new lens that you bring from the camera store, wherever you buy it from. You sit down and you mount that lens for the first time, and you take a picture and you just go, wow, this is why I love Nikon. The glass, whether it's the glass that you love, whether it's the way the camera feels in your hand. I go back to the fact that I've owned a lot of cameras, and till this day, the Nikon feels solid. The Nikon feels number one. In my opinion, the Nikon cameras feel number one in my hand. And I'm not the only one that feels this way. And, why do you think I fell in love with Nikon Mirrorless Z6s? Because out of all these mirrorless cameras, the Nikon Z lineup just feels right. I'm talking about the Z6, Z7. It was from then on, I got into mirrorless, but I fully haven't transitioned over to mirrorless just yet. I'm using mirrorless right now when doing video, and I do wedding photography work, some studio work, street photography with mirrorless cameras, but I haven't fully transitioned over to the mirrorless. I still have my DSLR, I still have my f-mount lenses, and I will continue to have these lenses. I bought some legendary glass. I bought a 200 f2 recently. I bought a 400 2.8 VR lens. I bought a 105E, and I have all the lenses. I have the 24 to 35, the 50, the 58, the 85, the 105. I have them all. I have a lot of Nikon glass. So till this day, my love for Nikon is stronger than ever. My number one love of Nikon is their glass. Glass, like I said, the almighty 85 millimeters, the 24 to 70G. I bought that lens in 2009, and till this day, I still have that 24 to 70G lens. It serves me well, and it's still rocking and rolling. The 7200 VR1, fell in love with that zoom lens. Amazing for portraits. I upgraded to the 70 to 200 VR2, and I still have that zoom lens. Just a phenomenal piece of glass. So when it comes to lenses, Nikon has it together. That's number one reason why I shoot with Nikon is the lenses. Now, if you ask me, the most important thing for me in photography is the images. I produce for my personal reasons and for my clients. It all comes down to the images. Sure, I've been with Nikon for a while and I still stick with Nikon because I love the brand, I love the history, and I just love the product. When Nikon comes out with a product, whether it be a camera, lens, a flash unit, you know it's top quality. You know it's going to work. It's never going to fail on me. I've never had a Nikon product fail. I've never had a Nikon camera stop working, or even mirrorless cameras. I've used mirrorless now for over a year now, and they just deliver day in and day out for me. When it comes to TTL flash, I think Nikon does a really good job with its TTL units. And I've had them all: SB600, 700, 800, 900, 910. I've used and abused these flash units, bounce the light, full power. The TTL performance when it comes to Nikon flashes and the way it reads, it's just outstanding. And I choose Nikon. That's one of the reasons why I like Nikon and their flash system. It just works well. So number one are the lenses. Number two is the way the cameras feel gripped in my hand. Like I said, I've owned Sonys, Canons, Fuji, but the Nikon, and especially this comes to play with mirrorless cameras because they're just much smaller than DSLR, right? They just feel great, even without a grip installed. They feel great in my hand. If a camera has a gazillion megapixels and focusing is just awesome, but I'm running and gunning weddings, portraits, photo shoots. If the camera does not feel good in my hand, it's just going to be a problem for me. And I tested them all out before I went into the mirrorless system, before I bought into it, and I like Nikon the most. Sure, do I think Nikon can improve in certain aspects of their mirrorless technology? Of course, Nikon was late in the game. I admit that. But they're slowly catching up. And, as a photographer, as a person that does photography more than videography or cinematography, I choose Nikon. With the upcoming Nikon Z9, one can only imagine what kind of improvements they have in store for us Nikon shooters. That being said, there's no perfect camera. I admit certain manufacturers do great than others in certain aspects of photography or video. Canon has their cinema line. Sony's kicking butt with video. Certain cameras do better than others in certain situations. Focus tracking, low light performance, this and that. There is no perfect camera. Again, there is no perfect camera. Sony, Fuji, Canon, Nikon. These are the four major brands that photographers and videographers use these days. I don't mention Leica or Hasselblad. I believe that Leica is a niche product. And if you think about it, guys, Leica was probably one of the first to adapt mirrorless technology in their cameras. If you think about, if you go back to the M8, the M9, those were mirrorless cameras. Those were mirrorless cameras, but it's a niche product. They make phenomenal lenses. Leica is just, is known for glass and craftsmanship. We'll just leave Leica out of this. Talking about the four major camera manufacturers that common photographers use these days. Sure, there's the Leica SL, and then Leica, and then the Hasselblad. They make their own mirrorless line, affordable mirrorless line right now. But when it comes to Nikon and the practical ease of use, I can't go out and shoot a wedding with the Leica. As much as I would love to, I cannot do that. It's just not practical. It's a rangefinder. And if I'm going to buy a Leica, it's going to be a rangefinder, obviously. However, I have friends that swear by the Leica SL line. They are awfully expensive, but how practical are they? How practical are they with wedding photographers? I've not come across a wedding photographer that uses the SL line. I think it's more geared towards the professional studio, street photographer. I have a friend, Darwin. He's a good friend of mine, and he has these cameras. He's a Leica guy, you know. So anyway, shout out to you, Darwin. I hope all is well. I haven't talked to you in a while, but hope you're doing well, my friend. And another important factor when it comes to Nikon or Nikon, however you want to say the name, the rich history of the Nikon camera. You cannot discredit their history. You cannot ignore their history. No matter how awesome the new Sony A1 is and how fast the R3 tracks focus, you cannot discredit what Nikon has done. And again, I've owned many Canon products. When it comes to lenses, on the Canon side, I've owned them all. L lenses, all the way going back all the way to the FD Canon days, the EF lenses. And again, you have to remember, it comes down to personal preference. You might love Canon lenses more than Nikon lenses. You might like their character more, their colors, the color science. So it all comes down to what you like as a photographer. It all comes down to your personal and professional needs. You might love the color science of Fuji and what they're doing with their APS-C cameras. I own a few. Currently, I use it. I don't use it in a professional sense because I just like full frame. I have to have full frame. When I do work, I just like the depth of field, the bigger sensor, and not to discredit anybody that uses Fujifilm APS-C cameras these days. They're phenomenal, they're great cameras, but for me, and I've said this in the past, I choose full frame. Nikon, and I've said this time and time again, Nikon is not going anywhere. Nikon is a rich, amazing photography company. They make amazing products that work. Till this day, 2021, 2022 is soon coming around the corner. We have many amazing, exciting things to look forward to. The launch of the Nikon Z9, many lenses coming out, mirrorless. Will they be upgrading their DSLR line? Many photographers are waiting. Will they be upgrading the D850? I don't have the answers to that. Time will tell. We're just going to have to wait and see. What about the D6? Is the D6 the last beast professional DSLR camera? I remember when Nikon discontinued their film camera, it was the F6. So F6, D6, is that a little telltale sign that that's it for DSLRs? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. And like I said before, guys, there's cameras that outperform Nikon in certain aspects. To me, that is not important because, like I said before, all the reasons I mentioned in this video, those outweigh the brand new megapixel count, low light, focus tracking, eye detection, car detection, this and that. I'm sure and I'm guaranteed Nikon will catch up to its competitors. But the one thing that Nikon has going for them? The one thing that Nikon, and once they do catch up to everyone else, and they come out with an amazing Z9 that just, performs just as well as all the others, is they have their amazing lens technology. You cannot take that away from Nikon. They have an amazing lens library. Whether you're mounting f-mount lenses to your mirrorless cameras, the Z glass, the Z mount lenses are just amazing. They're amazing. The sharpness, corner to corner, their colors, amazing products, guys. So that's one thing that nobody can take away from Nikon. I don't care what you say. I don't care if you're a Canon shooter or a Fuji shooter. You cannot discredit Nikon lenses. Their NIKKOR lens lineup is just, like I said, it's just phenomenal. And again, the way the camera feels in a photographer's hand is also an important factor. And sure, do I think Nikon should improve their video capabilities? Of course. And they will. They realize that there's a lot of hybrid shooters out there in today's times. You know, they look at what's going on with, you just look at what's going on with social media. To bring up an example a little bit off topic, you just look at social media these days: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. They're all video based as well as being photo based. Instagram came out as being a photographer's app where you upload pictures, but now they're doing video. Do I agree with that? That's for a whole different video topic. And if you see where times are going, if Nikon just sees an example of social media and sees, okay, we need to spend more time making an amazing product with video features, beef up their video department, now we can use that amazing glass. Now we can use that Z mount glass that we have, doing all these video, having all these video features. And I've said this a lot on my channel. I want 4K slow motion. I want to be able to use my 200 f2, doing amazing slow mo in 4K. I could just picture it right now, a beautiful landscape field with backlight. With my 200 f2, an amazing model, and I want some video, and I want to capture that beautiful bokeh and that slow motion in 4K. We're gonna have to beef up that video department, guys. Whether it's RAW, whether it's shooting N-Log or 10-bit, you name it. I think we're headed towards the right direction. Now, what advice can I give Nikon from this day forward? Well, as far as Nikon USA goes, I would say to the Nikon executives, send these content creators products so they can share it, post it, beef up that influence department when it comes to just sending people products to test out and to use and to share on social media. I think that department is lacking right now. Sure, Nikon, you guys have your ambassadors that you guys had for years, and they're great photographers. They do excellent work. But there's other photographers out there. There's other people with new faces out there that people have never heard of that also do excellent work, if not better work, more modern work. There's creative people out there. And without you, Nikon, giving these creatives tools so they can use and just beef up your platform, I think that will hurt you in the long run. So again, your ambassadors are great, amazing photographers, and we all know their names, but give those people out there the tools that they need to share and to show off your amazing products. Sure, you might have amazing lenses and cameras, but if no one knows about them and no one's hyping it up on social media, in the long run, it's going to help you with the marketing. In the long run, it's going to help you with sales, get your products out to creators and, photographers, cinematographers in the markets, and just listen to your users. Listen to what they say. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. These are some of the primary reasons why I choose Nikon and why I've chosen them for years. I've been with Nikon for decades now, and I just love the brand, and I am not going anywhere. And by the way, I'm not endorsed by them in any way, shape, or form, just for you viewers to know. I just happen to be a photographer and on YouTube sharing my thoughts on the brand. And sure, will I own other brands in the future? Will I talk about other brands? Will I share them with you guys? Of course I will. It would be an injustice for the love of photography if I don't review Sony, if I don't review Canon. But my first love, my go-to love, will be Nikon for now. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching. If this is your first time here on this channel, Vahagraphy, we talk all things Nikon, photography, doing tests, lens reviews, cameras, you know, you name it, we do it here. We have a rockin' time. I have a good time doing everything I do here. After all, I'm a professional photographer that happens to be on YouTube, you know, producing content for all you other, you know, beginner photographers, advanced professionals out there. I just have a fun time doing it. So if this is your first time here, go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon. You'll be notified when I upload new videos. And also, I opened up a new Instagram channel, Instagram account called Vahagraphy. Go ahead and check that out and follow me as well for all the awesome behind the scenes stuff going on. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. This is Vahagraphy. I'm Vahagan, your rock and roll photographer. And we'll see you soon on the next video. And remember, whether you're using Nikon, Canon, Fuji, Sony, Leica, Hasselblad, Mamiya, Olympus, Lumix, always remember, you have the camera in your hand, you're ready to take some pictures, always remember to rock and roll.